Silas?
Good morning, Laurie. How are you?
I'm all right. Very good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How can I distill how things have been for the last 3 or 4 weeks since we last met? I won't say things have been easy.
Mm.
I'm very conscious coming to these sessions that I'm going through a difficult time. There's, as I've spoken about before, there's the bigger context, and then there's the much more personal context. So the English thing to do would be to say I'm fine, but actually I'm good today, but it's been very up and down, very up and down. But the last time that we spoke, you did some wonderful neuroscience kind of framing for me, and we talked about getting out into nature. We talked about trying to find serotonin in different ways. And I have been walking in Epping Forest for 2 to 3 hours each day, about 4 or 5 days a week in the morning, which has been amazing. It's been really amazing. One of the difficult things about this time that we're in is that so many of the things that I usually practice or utilize to kind of keep myself going through the difficult profession that I'm in, with its ups and downs, are not available to me. I can't use the gym.
Right.
I can't. One of the things I often do is go to the cinema on my own in the afternoons when I'm not working. I love going to the cinema on my own for inspiration. Going to see people.
Yeah.
Doing swing dance classes that I do. All of these things are unavailable to me at the moment.
Yeah.
Because we're in this lockdown. And I think I may have mentioned last time, or maybe it's happened since, I had a kind of flurry of auditions, which I worked hard at and then didn't get. And so that kind of, that we did talk about this last time, that hope and putting in a lot of hard work and then suddenly the dip. Usually I would deal with that dip with, the various different tools that I've just mentioned, but they're not available to me. So the going to the forest every day has been an amazing substitute for that. Really amazing substitute.
And get time with trees.
Yeah, being with trees and being in nature. And there is something about walking that gets you into the rhythm of the universe, and I feel like a lot of the anxiety, which is kind of like high rhythm, has slowed down. I find that it gives me a structure to my day because I'm having to fill a lot of my own time at the moment. So I get up each day and I think, what shall I do today? And when I build certain structures, it's not always easy to keep to those structures when your mood is going up and down.
Yeah.
But walking in the forest every morning gives me time to think. I'm starting to think about, what can I do today? How can I structure my day? And then how can I structure the week? And what is it that I'm after? So it gives me time to, to kind of contemplate and just look around and absorb all the green. And so it's been a fantastic practice, and I'm, definitely going to continue that because it's also good exercise, So so things have not been easy, but I feel a real leveling out as I'm doing this exercise now, which is really good.
It's amazing that you are continuing, like you keep going, I mean, what else can you do? But you keep going. I mean, it's an incredibly hard time. You have resilience and the strength, the core strength,
Thank you for saying that. Yeah. It's so the other part of the project that I've been working on with you is the sound studio and doing recordings, and I am now putting out my own auditions on 2 websites that I'm on. And one of the things that that is in itself an achievement, I keep reminding myself that a few months ago, I didn't even know how to, how to use a sound studio on a computer.
Yeah.
Now I'm doing out auditions. I have to keep reminding myself of that. But what I'm noticing is, you know, rather like the other part of my profession that I'm in, competition is so high at the moment,
Yeah, sure.
so high, more so than at any other time, because there are so many of us unemployed, but also there are lots of people going, right, what I need to do is get onto these websites and, and generate my own work. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people on this site. So I haven't had anybody asking me to record their books yet. I'm sure at some point it will come, but at the moment it really feels like another instance where I'm generating a lot of stuff myself and hearing nothing back, and that silence is very deafening.
Deafening is the word I was thinking too.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I'm just trying to kind of contextualize that at the moment. What I do know about my life, it is very up and down. They always say about, the acting profession, and I'm sure lots of other artistic professions as well. It's feast or famine.
Yeah.
And I'm reminding myself of the times that I have in my life tripped over work. Had jobs all lined up and been incredibly busy. And I'm reminding myself that I have also had times of, where it's totally fallow.
Yeah.
There is a difference between waiting around for something to come to you and, and then putting yourself out in the way that I am at the moment and still getting nothing back. There's, I feel more proactive now and more in control of my proactiveness. But not hearing anything back makes that almost more painful.
Sure.
It's a strange thing, but I know at some point it's going to be different.
Yeah.
So resilience is everything. And at the moment, I think what I'm trying to do right now is kind of strangely enough, try to slow myself down. And that doesn't mean slow down my productivity. It means I'm trying to slow down the energy inside of me, the anxiety, just trying to get with the rhythm of how things are at the moment. If this is a fallow period, if this is a period of lockdown, if this is a time when nothing much can happen, let it be. Just keep your own pace and keep putting things out there, to the best of my ability, taking into account how I feel on a day-to-day basis. And don't try and run to trip over things, because otherwise it makes that lack of feedback all the more painful.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yes. And last time you talked about the rhythm of the universe.
Yeah.
That's what I hear you talking about, like trusting that. And
yeah.
Even though you get no feedback, it must be incredibly hard, by the way. I mean, that's some of the work that I do, talking about feedback. It's like the worst kind of feedback you can get is nothing.
Yeah.
Like not even somebody going, that was horrible, it even creates a little more certainty than nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that is something that has been growing in the acting profession for a long time. I mean, it's not, I think this is quite shameful that a lot of the time, producers, casting directors, they no longer reply to your agent saying he didn't get the job or she didn't get the job, but thank you. Please thank them for coming in. They've stopped doing that, and there was a time a year or two ago when I would press my agent to say, please, can you call up and find out where we stand with that so that I can move on, or if there's any feedback so that I can learn more about my auditioning technique. And they would do so. And I would get some answers back. But then there came a point where my agents would be like, we can't keep making these phone calls because we're not getting anything back. And so it's souring the relationship. We all have to accept that the new way of being is that you just don't hear back unless it's a yes. But even within that, I would be going into the room to meet people for auditions, so that at least I could come away going, okay, I feel that I did a good audition, but also I met that person. They might think of me again.
Yeah.
You know, I may not be right for this part, but now I'm in their minds, they can. But in this lockdown situation, we're all doing self-tests, screen tests. We're recording ourselves and sending them out. So when I'm not even meeting anybody,
Wow.
you know,
So cold is the word, you know, no warm relationships, just sending things out, like signals out into the void.
Yeah. So I'm doing all of the work in my house with a camera, sending stuff off. I don't hear anything back. It's, you know, and also the voiceover websites, as I say, because they're so large, people, of course, are listening to all of these different samples that are being sent to them. And somebody may hear my voice and go, that's not right for my book, but that's a great voice. I'm going to suggest them, you know, but I don't know any of that's happening. I'm just sending things out and it's silence. So it's a different time, you know, and I think that lack of contact with people, which I understand everybody who's in a lockdown situation at the moment is feeling, that lack of contact with people is, I find it unnerving, you know, it's unnatural.
It is.
So actually, yeah, being out in the forest every day and, you know, seeing the little animals and being with the trees, it makes me feel more connected.
Yeah.
You know, and I live in a nice part. Epping Forest is lovely because every person you go past, unusually for London, smiles and says hello. So, you know, I'm making contact with strangers, you know.
Yeah. So did you want to spend time on that in this session or?
I think that would be useful, actually. Yeah, I think that would be useful. Yeah.
Because I just want to throw another or build on the neuroscience-y bit from last time when we talked about the dopamine roller coaster and serotonin.
Yeah.
But also we need some dopamine, and we get dopamine from belonging and status. I don't think I've introduced you to the Be Safe and Certain. Of course, you know it from but from before. So the 6 things in that model will create dopamine, or they'll for like rewards, or others will create or other experiences will create threats and stress. So belonging, for example, is one of these. Do you
Can we go through those quickly?
Yeah, let's do that.
I mean, I know them, but it would be a great reminder.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect you to remember from 7 months ago. So they are belonging, status, autonomy, fairness, expectations, and certainty. So be safe and certain.
Dopamine from.
Yeah. So here, these are social things. So we get dopamine from external things like eating things that we like and stuff like that. But these are social things. We're social animals and we need some belonging and like that. So why don't I go through them one at a time and just you can feel through them and we either get there might be sort of a null feeling, but you also might feel, oh yeah, I get some dopamine from that in my life right now. Or I feel a huge void of that.
Yeah.
And if we don't get any dopamine, like some of the stuff I've read shows if you don't get any dopamine, that can lead to depression. And I think a lot of people are suffering from this right now, is they're not getting dopamine from any of these things. And to figure out how to get some dopamine.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So belonging, you've already said, you don't get to meet those people when you go to auditions, you don't get to see your friends, so tell me about the possibility of getting dopamine, or the current state of getting dopamine or not from belonging, and maybe then the possibility.
Well, one of the things that I am able to, it's funny, I think I told you that I'm having dreams at the moment about being with groups of people. I'm dreaming about parties, and groups of people and waking up and, it's lovely to be in the dream, but I'm waking up and feeling the heaviness and the disappointment of not being able to see, groups of friends. the most difficult thing is not being able to see my mother at all. We're still in this situation where I cannot visit her at all in the home,
Yeah.
even in a socially distanced way. So, and she's becoming more and more depressed. So what I did on Saturday, which was really useful, I went for a walk with a friend of mine, whom I haven't seen for about 11 months. Because of circumstances, also because before lockdown I was away in Sheffield working, and she's also struggling at the moment. So one thing you are able to do is to go for exercise with one person. So I booked to have a long walk with her, which was great, and I've also booked to have a long walk with another friend on this Thursday, because I got so much from walking with somebody on Saturday.
Yeah.
It was a long walk. We walked for about 4 hours. So we really, really talked. And I think that is a useful thing. I'm really feeling, because of this silence, I'm feeling almost like I don't belong any longer in the profession, because it's so silent.
Yeah.
As soon as I get a call for an audition, there's that hope. I feel like I'm part of something during the silence. And of course, it is quieter in the winter anyway. There are fewer things going on. I'm really feeling that loneliness. I feel very lonely, So I got so much from calling Susanna and going for a walk with her on Saturday. And I booked another friend I haven't seen for a while, in on a walk on Thursday. And I think that's a really good thing to do, is create these islands with other people where I go out with them. So because for the rest of the week I'm walking on my own.
Yeah.
Because my partner's here in the house with me, but she's working full time, at the desk. So I have to leave her alone. So I think that's a really good thing to do, is to actually tap into individual people and go for walks with them during this period of time.
Nice.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things there. One is just a recognition that, you need some belonging.
Yeah.
You're not getting a lot of it, and it's normal to feel bereft in a way. That's kind of lost or unnerved is the word you use.
Yeah.
Because there's not, and we'll go through these others because there's threats to those as well. But belonging is a huge one for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is. It's funny. As you said that, feeling bereft. I think there's something going on, because I am resilient and because I have volunteered myself into this profession. I've been in it for 32 years. There is something about constantly fighting, constantly bouncing back, constantly working. There's a part of me that is almost not allowing myself to be bereft.
Right.
Not allowing myself to be depressed. And I'm feeling that the pressure is because there's a part of me that wants to just let go and be as sad and lonely as I feel.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But I get up and I feel guilty. I'm like, you haven't done enough today, or you haven't fought hard enough, or you've got to go and do this, you've got to go and do that. And there's that strain, that kind of tension at the moment. So yeah, it's just an interesting word that jumped out of me, bereft.
I'm sorry if I labeled you with something that was a little extreme.
No, it's not extreme at all. It jumped out at me because that it rang true. I think that's how I feel at the moment. I feel bereft.
Yeah.
But there's another part of me, which is that I recognize that there are so many more people out there suffering so much more than I am. I speak to my mum every day, and she's in a far, far worse position. So when you recognize that, I think you don't allow yourself to feel your own bereavement, because you're aware that other people are more bereft than you.
Yeah.
And it's a question of contextualizing that and going,
It's great how our minds work, isn't it? Because we can just tap into something else, think a different way.
Yeah.
Get different responses from this emotional brain.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I also have a stand that, I would love to help you spend a little bit of time just feeling what you feel. I think was your expression. That was your expression. Feeling what you really feel rather than having to power through. I'm debating with myself at the moment to just spend some time doing that, or do we finish going through these be safe and certain things? What's your,
uh,
why don't, here's a proposal. Why don't we go through these? We don't have to spend a ton of
yeah,
time on each one. And then like pull them all together and we'll have you feel what you feel in a very honest way without having to
yeah. Let's
pull
do that.
yourself up.
Yeah,
Yeah?
let's do that. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So let's, I think last time I said, and ways you can get more dopamine. So we're going to save that till the end.
mm,
Okay. So just current state. The next element is status. And status means there's a tribe that you have. It's kind of tricky because if you don't feel like you have a tribe, there may not be anyone with whom you have a sense of status, you know. But let's just say wherever you feel that you are in your life, whatever systems you're a part of, what is your status? Do you feel respected? Do you have a role that you're playing? Because without a role or a function, we can feel really unstable.
I think the honest answer is right now, I do feel that I have some status and there's some comfort there. You know, that I am doing a bit of filming next week and the week after. I'm, you know, very lucky. I won't mention the program because it would not be right to do this, because it's not a program I'm excited about. And it's not a script I'm excited about. So I won't mention what the program is, but, you know, I accepted the job because at the moment I think it's just, there are so few people working. I'm grateful to be working. And of course it will bring me some money. But that does actually afford me some status at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, I think ordinarily I might look at something like this and I would probably not do the job given, you know, given what it is. Which in itself shows status, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, that I have a choice.
You have a choice.
But at the moment, I'm very happy to be doing the work, and I'm actually very grateful to be doing it because there are so few people working that to have work affords you immediately, it affords you status.
Yes.
You know, and I feel that way, and I mean this in the best possible way, that I think about the people who aren't working, and that, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, from kind of, you know, misery to ecstasy, I may be somewhere around about number 3 or 4 right now. But there are people who are going to be on 1 or 0.
Yeah.
You know, so that affords me, I feel like there is something there, and that gives me status. I am one of the few working actors at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, for which I'm grateful. So I do feel some status there, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. What you're demonstrating is amazing about how you can change, just choose a mindset. I mentioned it a few minutes ago, but it's the same thing, you know, choose a mindset and it has you go, oh yes, I do have some, and it actually creates a little more dopamine.
Yeah, always. I always try and do that. I think, you know, there's a propensity to constantly, well, there is in me, I know there is in all human beings, to look at what we don't have.
Yes.
And so I actively make myself look at what I do have.
Yeah.
Actively, I do that every day. I do gratitudes, and, you know, I constantly am looking at what's there on the table as opposed to what's not on the table.
Yeah.
You know, I have to force myself to do it, but, you know.
Yeah, it's a strength of yours.
Yeah.
Well, let's keep going. Autonomy is the next element in this set.
Yeah.
And there's lots of ways to perceive autonomy, of course. You know, you could say, wow, you have so much autonomy because you have so much time available to you. You can go walk in the forest, and so there's one way. Or another might be, I don't have autonomy because I don't get to choose all this, you know, the jobs that I want. There's lots of ways to interpret it, but what are your feelings about your sense of autonomy in your life at the moment?
That's really interesting that you actually said those two things, because, you know, my instinctive response was that I don't feel that I have much autonomy at the moment, because I don't seem to have much control over, you know, the work element of things. But you're absolutely right. I have a huge amount of autonomy. I have to remind myself that I have money in the bank right now, and I am able to not work doing anything else and just concentrate on trying to get work as an actor, if I so choose. and I have the autonomy to go out and walk in the woods, each day. That's a really interesting reframing. At the moment, each day I wake up and I sometimes struggle with what am I going to do today? But I don't look at the fact that I have a choice to say, what am I going to do today? But even as you said that, I immediately felt that shift, that I am actually in control of my life. It's a fantastic thing. Yeah. My partner and I were talking about finances the other day, and I mean, I have to average out my earnings over a year, but I make slightly more than she does, but we're pretty much on a level. And she said, yes, but you have all that time off. I'm slogging at this 6 days of the week. And you have all that time to yourself. And I was like, yeah, and my answer was, yeah, that's very true. I would like to be working more. I sometimes look at you and I envy the fact that, you have things to do and to go to. But the truth of the matter is that there is an enormous amount of autonomy in my life. So, inadvertently, you just saying that's reframed it for me. Yeah. Okay. And I think that really helps, because it just to remind myself of that helps when I go to do another sample, another recording, and send it off to people. Just to remind myself that this is not just kind of, throwing something into the void that I'm probably not going to hear from. It is a form of autonomy, just to do that.
Yeah.
And if I come at it from that practice, this is going to make me feel good. If I read all those, possibilities, and I pick out one and I do a 15-minute sample and I send it off, that's a form of autonomy.
Yeah.
It's a really good reframing.
Yeah. I wasn't intending to reframe, actually.
The
boundaries of it.
I know you weren't. It was totally inadvertent, but it was very powerful how that just hit me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Great. That's exciting. Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next one is fairness. And fairness can be quite powerful, especially if you're feeling that things are unfair. And again, you have a choice in, how you can look at your life, and you have a range in which you might be using. I mean, you could say this is so unfair. COVID hits, it destroys our industry, and and nobody gives me feedback. Or there's that experience of it, and it can create quite a sense of revenge. Or there might be some, you might feel, well, it's more than fair what I'm getting given the situation. Again, there's a wide range, but what's your experience? What's been your experience lately around your feelings of what's fair or not?
Fairness is one of my values. And so I think I always strive for fairness, in relationships, in conversation, in my outlook. And so there is a part of me that avoids saying or feeling this is unfair in my profession. I used to. I think I felt a lot more self-pity than I do now. I used to think this is so unfair. I used to look at the people above me who had so much more work and status and money than I did. And I would think to myself, this is really unfair. I'm working really hard. Why is nobody noticing me? So on and so forth. And then I realized that was incredibly damaging. And as I said, at the moment, I'm much more in the practice of recognizing that I'm somewhere up the ladder of success. And however much more ladder there is above me and how many people are crowding it, I always look down and go, my goodness, look at all these poor people who don't have what I have. And that's an active thing, on a day-to-day basis. So I think, and that's a way of treating myself fairly as well.
Yeah.
To always recognize that I have so much in life, and just by nature of who I am, I have so much privilege in life. So at the moment, I think things are fair. I couldn't use the word unfair, to describe my situation. I might at times think that it's unfortunate, you know.
Hmm.
I mean, it was unfortunate that I was on a bit of a roll that got stopped dead by COVID, but that is not to do with fairness, really. That's just,
Yeah.
one of those turns in life that's unfortunate. But
Yeah.
things don't feel unfair at the moment.
Yeah. Good. And that's great. Adam, it's a nice, possibly a recognition of how you've grown and changed. So in the past, you might have thought that's unfair.
Yeah, yeah,
There's a little more self-pity in the
yeah,
past.
yeah.
Yeah. So again, you have the capacity to change your mind about it and look at things in a way that's positive for you.
Yes, yeah. It's necessary.
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a
For sanity.
there's a kind of conscience involved. I think I just have a conscience around these things to always recognize that I'm lucky.
Mm, it's impressive.
Yeah.
So the next one is expectations.
Mm,
And expectations. So when you talk about putting something out there and having some hope, or doing an audition and having, or getting the call for something, it's like possibility. So that's the dopamine that you get from
mm,
expectations. And then there's the, oh, I'm not hearing anything, the disappointment.
mm,
That's sort of the range of expectations. Like, oh, I was hoping to get some word, and no, I'm not getting it. And
mm.
then on the downside of expectations, where disappointment happens, your brain actually sucks away all the dopamine,
Mm.
and it becomes an emptiness. There's probably some natural bereftness there. Like, oh, there's nothing, the
Yeah.
feeling of depression, not clinical depression, but and it also lights up pain centers. So we feel hurt.
Right.
So there's no physical pain associated with it, but that same part of the brain that says there's pain here is lit up when we are disappointed.
Oh, that's really interesting.
So when
Yeah.
people say, oh, I'm hurt, this is quite literally true.
Huh.
So
That's
disappointment. I think people go, oh, I was disappointed. I think, and even before I learned any neuroscience stuff, even as a coach, I recognize there's a lot we're doing to disregard disappointment, but it is deeply painful at times.
yes. Yeah.
So let's not skim over it.
That really speaks to me, actually, because I think that it's interesting. The last couple of answers, there's that part of me that really displays how I can reframe quickly, and how my tendency is to look at what I have as opposed to what I don't have, because it feels wrong to behave in any other way. But the answer to this, as you're speaking, is that I don't know that I give myself enough recognition of the hurt, that things actually hurt.
Mm.
I think there's a part of me that says I can't say that, because other people are hurting much more in life. But actually, it does really hurt. Disappointment is, it's painful,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
and sometimes I'm good at recognizing that if I really want something, or I think that I'm really right for something, a job, I mean, like a couple of the auditions that came out recently, you just look at things, you go, oh, wow, because you really fit the remit.
Mm.
And you may perhaps know people. Like, I'd already worked with one of the producers before on quite a big show. So you think, oh, okay, I'm in with a chance here. And that was even reflected by my agent, who, sometimes they look at things and they go, Silas could be good for that. And sometimes they look at something and go, that's Silas's job.
Mm.
And then they looked at the self-tape that I did and they were like, wow. And they said to me, this was one of those jobs where you think, yeah, this client is in with a really good chance. And I discovered I didn't even make the shortlist. Like, they just were like, no, he's totally wrong for this.
Yeah.
And that was really, it's unusual but it really hurt, I suppose, because the expectations were higher.
Yeah.
But also you then think, gosh, if I didn't even make the shortlist for that, then how am I going to get any of these ones that on paper I don't really look right for,
Mm.
So that experience recently was very painful. And usually I allow myself to go, okay, if there's a rejection there, it's going to take you, maybe 2-3 days to just let that get out of your system. So allow that to happen and then get on with the next thing. And that's usually the time frame for me, you know, but this one hurt for a while.
Yeah.
And after 2 days, there was this part of me that goes, right, you've got to carry on. You've got to, right, next thing, try and put another audition out there. What are you going to do with yourself today? And I was pushing myself, you know, to get on with things before I'd actually allowed myself to really feel that pain. You know, it was almost like it was a shock.
Yeah.
You know, because it was such a, and again, I think it's a mark of when those things happen. I don't mean this egotistically at all, but when those things happen, when you instinctively know that you're going to be in the running for something, and then you discover that you're not even in the running for it, then you go, oh, that's how much competition there is out there.
Yeah.
That's how many people they have to choose from.
Yeah.
You know.
Must feel like quite a slap.
Yeah, yeah. And it's also, you kind of take the personal hit, then you go, oh, this is the state of things at the moment, you know. A bit like the website. I was very excited about joining the website, about sending stuff out. And then as I was beginning to do that, I went, oh, this is huge. There are so many thousands of people doing this, you know, yikes. But I don't think that to come back to what I was saying, I don't think that I give myself enough recognition of the hurt that's there, you know.
Yeah.
So I think at the moment there's more pain than there is hope.
Yeah. And you can, you know, we've said a couple of times, you can change your mind and move through things, which can change your orientation and get you more dopamine. But sometimes, like, this is what's here. And I think trying to change your mind about it just puts your head in the sand and creates some, you know, and kind of shoves the pain somewhere, and, you know, we store it somewhere for later.
Yeah. And I think that's how the walking is helping at the moment, actually, because that allows that pain to just leave the system in a physical way, rather than me trying to reframe and trying to think my way through it, or, you know, trying to distract myself by getting on with the next thing. The walking is reminding me that I'm alive, you know, and I'm grateful to be alive, and all these trees are holding me in a good place, you know.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's quite a thing, actually, to go from allowing myself 3 to 4 hours of a day, well, somewhere between 2 to 4 hours of a day to go walking. That's a long time out of my day that I would otherwise perhaps be at the computer, be at the microphone, you know, be doing something to try and get myself back on track, to go, no, whoa, that isn't going to help you. What's going to help you is getting out and walking. You know, it's been quite a thing to, at first I was like, can I afford this much time? And now I'm like, give me that time.
Yeah, it's essential.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. And that's how the emotional brain works, is we need to take care of it. So many people are burning out because they're not doing exactly what you just described. You know, they're suffering, we're trying to cover it up, and we're trying to just get on, and man, it's hard.
Yeah.
And I know we're not recognizing this whole thing called well-being, that just sounded like a nice luxury thing to have, is not. It's we need the balance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one more element in the Be Safe and Certain model, and the last one is certainty. You know, there's a range of, you know, things you can count on, and, you know, when you really feel, okay, I've got that, and it creates stability. And then there's this, you know, there's lots of uncertainty to be had.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the moment it's very low. Certainty is very, very, very low, you know. And that is something that I'm recognizing and having to come to terms with.
Yeah.
And again, the walking is helping, because what the walking is helping me with is just to be present. You know, eventually there comes a point at which I stop thinking and I just look around me and I walk and I get really present. Because there is just no certainty at the moment. And so I just don't know when this is going to end. I don't know when things are going to level out. I don't know when I'm next going to get a job. I don't know when I'm next going to get an audition, and even the little things that come along that you think, oh, things will change, like, oh, these vaccine trials are doing really well at the moment. I'm like, yeah, but it's really uncertain about that. There's a huge infrastructure that will go into place. How much damage will have been done? What will theaters look like after that? And who knows when, how, so I am kind of just accepting the fact that things are really uncertain, and accepting it gets me to be more present.
Yeah.
It's almost like I'm not thinking about tomorrow.
Mm.
That's the only way in which I can get through this.
Yeah.
Something that comes to mind, I don't mean this morbidly, but it's very real, is that I don't know if I will see my mum again, and I don't know if I will see her alive again. There is a real point that it's getting to, that the depression and the anxiety is becoming so much. And I'm like, will I be able to hug her in 6 months? Is it more likely going to be a year? Is she going to last that long? I really have no idea. And so that makes me very different each time I speak to her. I'm much more present to her when I talk to her, because I'm so uncertain. And so there's not a lot of dopamine coming from certainty at the moment.
No. So if you just put all those in one basket, because we only have one brain, and our overall feeling is a collection of how much dopamine is created and how much stress chemicals, which is adrenaline and cortisol, like all those, that kind of just go into one big bucket, and whichever one wins is generally how we feel. I mean, we can tap into some things and go, oh yeah, I did this, and then but on average, it's an average of those chemicals, and you can boost some. So like your boost of autonomy that you got by that reframe will give you an overall more
right.
Just want you to kind of feel into the whole. Maybe you could just close your eyes even for a moment, and all those things we just talked through. There was the belonging, lack of belonging, and creating bits of belonging with your walking with your friends, and there's status and feeling like you have more status than many. Autonomy, lots of autonomy in your life, even if it's not the kind you're used to. Fairness, feeling that things are pretty fair. Expectations, that pain of disappointments that sometimes doesn't get that much space. And then this certainty, lots of uncertainty, especially about your mom. It's all that together. Just let it all kind of combine together, and just spend a moment or two noticing what it feels like.
I think instinctively I'm feeling some tension and some pain in the back of my head. And, feeling there's a lot of light in the room because it's a beautiful sunny day. But I am feeling a heaviness in my shoulders, and I'm feeling that pain in the back of my head. And I would say at the moment that if I'm really honest with myself, the stress chemicals are outweighing the dopamine at the moment. And there is a kind of seesaw effect. As we've been talking and as I've been going through the session, there are things I feel better about. But I would say, generally speaking, at the moment, the stress and the anxiety is quite high. So I think it's kind of, it's tipped that way.
Yeah.
Tap into my body right now. I think that's what's going on.
And how is it to just spend some honest time with them?
It's good, actually. I think it's really good. You know, I think the word that's coming up right now is forgiveness. That it's okay for me to admit that this is the case,
Mm.
and that I can forgive myself for feeling like this. I think there's been a sense over the last few weeks that I've been pushing a bit too hard to get things done, to try and create more in my life, and it's not been helping.
Mm.
And I think the happiest 2 days I spent actually were the 2 days just before my birthday, where because it was coming up to my birthday and I was having a lockdown birthday, I allowed myself 2 days of sitting on the sofa in my pajamas and reading. And I read 2 books in 2 days. And it was amazing. I just really, really, really felt so happy and comfortable. And there is a bit of that metaphorically, to allow myself to feel, allow myself to do nothing. Although reading 2 books in 2 days is not doing nothing, you know. It's that's quite an achievement, as it were.
Yeah.
But it feels good to just forgive myself for feeling the way that I'm feeling, and just to recognize that things are tough, and to know that it will change, and it doesn't have to be me who has to change it. But I can trust that the universe will, you know, change things. That I can I can change a certain amount, but only a certain amount. I can't change everything.
Mm.
And I can forgive myself for feeling this, this way at the moment. That's instinctively what's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels good to admit that actually to myself.
Mm.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Mm.
Feels to me, just in observation, that as you do that, and maybe it's just repeating what you said, but as you do that, as you just feel what's there, you don't have to work so hard to have it be different.
Yeah.
You're good at that. You're amazing at that, but you can also be a choice about when you do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. And that tension's gone.
Hmm.
Wow. Something just completely unlocked there. Yeah. Yeah. Slowing down. I'm looking at this picture that that I did for you a while ago. I just have it here, and it says slowly, fully, purposefully.
Mm.
And again, that slowly thing is important, I think, right now. You know, coming back to trees, how slowly they grow.
Mm.
They grow so slowly over hundreds of years,
Yes.
And I think there is something in there. I can allow myself to slow down. Yeah, there's this part of me that keeps thinking I need to, send out another audition. I need to do another sample and send it out. And actually, I think it might be good to just take a little break every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Send things out when I feel ready and when I want to, rather than sending them out because I feel like I should. And recognizing that actually what has happened is that since we started these sessions in the summer, I've learned a lot about using a sound studio, creating a home studio. I'm getting lots of practice. I'm enjoying that practice. And I forget that. I forget that I've already come quite far.
Yeah.
and that I don't have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing if it's not doing me any good.
Right.
That actually I can, if I fall into that frame of mind of like disappointment before I even send it out, not doing me any good, that what I ought to be doing is just, or what would help me is just to send those samples out because I want to play around with the sample again. Think of it that way. So there's something about slowing down and allowing myself to be bereft.
I'm hearing a lot about autonomy there. Like you have your own internal drivers that go, you have to do it like this, you have to do it like that, you have to think positive, and you have to do, and if you can just go, take a back seat to that voice. So, this is how I feel right now, right here, and be really super present.
Yeah.
Like you will be feeling more stable.
That's really interesting, isn't it? The thing that's coming to mind is I hadn't equated that with autonomy, but of course it is. What was I thinking just now? There's something about the guilt that I feel as an actor, as an artist. If I'm not working, I feel guilty, like I haven't done enough. But actually I'm not in control of this profession. I'm at the moment, I don't get to see anybody. The auditions are done by committee. Everybody's looking at these tapes now, not just the director you'd be working with. I have no autonomy over that. And yet, so if I don't get jobs, there's a part of it that feels guilty that I have this free time. I feel guilty that I didn't get the work. I feel like there's something wrong with me. And it's wrong to have all this free time, and I should be filling it.
I often think of this dynamic like there's an internal boss, and then you're experiencing self. They're both you, of course, but this internal boss has learned a way to be productive and functional in the world, and it's got a bit of a whip sometimes. And this experiencing self is feeling micromanaged a bit. Like do it, and feeling the feelings of the whip. And so just wondering if you can get this guy a time, take the rest of the year off, dear boss.
Yeah. That would be great. That really chimes with me, actually. Yeah, I think, what I'm struggling with more than the feeling of being bereft or a feeling of sadness is actually a feeling of guilt. I'm struggling with beating myself up a bit over this situation. That's not helping. Yeah.
So what do you need to do to stop?
The thing that immediately comes to mind is actually, the walking and the connecting with people. That's very active, but it feels like something that at the moment the priority is that it's supporting the other stuff. I get back home and I'm like, right, I've had my walk now, I need to apply myself. But actually it feels like I need to flip that around. That the priority should be walking, bike riding, connecting with people in the only way that I can under these circumstances.
Yeah.
That wants to be the priority of my day. And that the other stuff comes if and when there is time and incentive.
So it feels like that's something you can do. Definitely. Yeah. And this guilt, we're kind of at an end of our time, but the guilt voice is coming from some belief.
Yeah.
The feeling of guilt is coming from some belief, like I have to keep going. And so my invitation to you is to find what is that belief that drives that creates the guilt in the end.
Let me write that down. Yeah.
And you are a master at changing those inner thoughts. So once you get a hold of that, you'll be able to shift it.
Yeah.
So walking, cycling, all that's priority. And yeah, give that inner boss the day off.
Yeah.
The month off, the year off.
Yeah, that feels like a great thing to get to the end of the year. Yeah.
Will you play with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's actually, I've written down, what is the belief that drives my guilt? And that feels like a question to really mull over. That's going to take some thinking and some journaling, and there's some deep stuff in there.
Mm.
So that feels like a good bit of homework to play around with.
Yeah.
Because that's profound.
Great.
Yeah.
Super.
That's great, Laurie. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. I look forward to hearing what you do with that.
Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah.
Great session. Thanks.